Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. You may recognize him from earlier, Mr. Chris Gilsenan of Root Home, property developer, investor, a gentleman who knows quite a lot about property, having really been in the business, 15 years? Is that how long? Was it longer?
Longer, yeah.
Good Lord. So you've seen rather a lot happen, given that the furore, the rise and fall of various different mortgage devices. And it was Chris's idea to call today's little séjour with why is Gareth so upset? I'm telling you why I'm upset. I'm climbing onto my orange box now. I'll tell you why I'm upset. Chris, when was the last time we had the 95, 99% mortgage? When was that?
When the banks were getting very frivolous with their money in the early to mid 2000s, and
did that not spark with the subprime and everything else?
It was one of a few things that concocted and came together and created the perfect storm. I'm not sure if it was the thing that. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was not the thing, not what caused.
No. It was the
volume. It was relaxation of lots of the banking regulations. That the impact of what in the UK was we had available funds for everyone.
There's a long expression, is it? When the States gets a cold, we catch the flu, and there'd been selling of subprime mortgages like Topsy by Northern Rock in the States, and of course that then we caught the flu and we got it, and on top of the 95-99% mortgages and so on, that caused, as you say, the perfect storm, and down we went. What I do know is selling mortgages at that ridiculous rate is a recipe for disaster when the base rate changes, or when for 100 different reasons. It gets you on the property ladder, yes, but then should the conditions change, suddenly you've got an unsustainable mortgage.
I think they were very loose with their requirements, and they would effectively lend to anyone who was breathing, which was a challenge. And if you remember, Northern Rock were actually going up to 110% in some of their gearing situations.
What was anyone thinking? I know what they're thinking. They were profiteering. They thought they'd make hay while the sun shone to the expense of everybody else. Where was the humanity in that? This is what angers me. And we've got a bloody government that have done nothing to improve housing stock since the beginning of time. It feels like, yeah, with thousands of promises through the Labour governments, through the Labour, so the Liberal Conservative coalition, and out the other side, and through this nonsense, they've all promised there'll be more housing stock. Was there? Be all. And now, here we are now, with almost no decent stock left out there. And what there is about to start spiraling upwards, a government who's desperately trying to hang on to power by its very fingertips. And all they're trying to do is keep people on side, is offer them these sort of tidbits. It's frankly wrong and despicable, in my opinion.
I hope people do see through the sham, because it's very, very surface level. An attempt at vote winning, and it's just bribery. It's just basic bribery. You know they're liars. You know they're not going to do it. They're not going to do anything beneficial to people or for people, because if they were, the beneficial thing they would have done is open the floodgates on the planning system, which may be coming in some element next week. So.
Well, they already started on that, didn't they? I mean, the very fact that that business with the Maisonette business, whereby we were talking about only a few weeks ago, not Maisonette, wrong. You know what I'm talking about, but they made it easier. Sorry,
the leasehold reform, some of the leasehold reform. Yeah.
So that's kind of right. I know that's only tip of iceberg stuff, but it's kind of in that same direction, is it not?
Yeah, there was a report that got released last week, or I think earlier this week, and it identified that there are issues in the planning system, and it actually is potentially not doing what it should be doing, or the output is not necessarily delivering what people would expect. It's not really much of a surprise to many people if if they realise that the planning system is the key holder or the gatekeeper to the delivery of more property and more houses for people. So yeah,
It just amazes me that we've scraped ourselves out of that mess barely. That we're in a situation now where house prices are obscenely high, which is prices most first time buyers, unless they've got a very rich mummy and daddy or they've been left a whole wedge by the grandparents, out of the ability to even buy something. And then on top of that, you've got a cost of living crisis, the like of which we've never seen since the end of the Second World War.
mm-hmm.
Add to that the whole tumult of nonsense going on abroad in Ukraine and Russia and the preponderance over that sort of thing, with aid, tons of aid going out that way, and the world saying, shouldn't you spend more money of that on? In my book, they should be spending a lot of that aid on rebuilding houses. But who am I to say? But to add insult to injury, just at the last minute, the last knockings, they are making available this 19. What? It's just
if they did it, if they did it, and we were talking about this earlier, it has the potential to irreparably damage the housing market in terms of pushing prices to such a high level in such a very short space of time that I've said it before in our conversations that we are moving towards a German style housing market where almost everyone is priced out of the market. That is imminent. That is very much coming.
So it's going to be generation. We talked about this once before. Generation rent.
We're already in a position where some of the biggest builders around the areas where I operate and live, they are the housing associations. There's housing associations that have the huge access to cash and capital, and they're not profit making, so they can amortize that loss over such a long period of time. Developers don't think like that. So, and until you get a market conditions right, where developers are back in the market and there is a plethora of projects that are ongoing, house prices are not going to come down, availability is not going to increase, it's all going to continue going the wrong way.
We're not increasing the amount of stock that's out there. House building is at its lowest ebb in umpteen years.
Yep.
There's no real appetite for it because nobody knows on what footing they're producing these properties. There's also, if you are going to produce, for instance, a block of properties, you have to guarantee a certain amount is social housing, which makes them very less
profitable.
Less profitable. So why would you even start the process in the first place? We're stuck in this descending spiral.
Yeah, that's right. It would seem that way. It would seem that way. We keep being lied to and taking it. But I guess the good news,
the taking it business that I'm at odds with.
The which business?
It's just, look, you point at someone like a certain Johnson, and you know that you can say with impunity, because it's been proved in court, he's a liar. You can say that. That's legal. No one can sue me on it. It's been proved. You can point at a certain Trump and say he's a liar. It's been proved in court beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter what the Trumpians say. So, and yet each of them is putting out their own slew of propaganda, and people are still lapping it up, which to me says either we're getting more stupid, which I cannot and will not be persuaded of, because that means that the human race is in fact doomed. Either we're getting more stupid or we're more willing to turn a blind eye. And why is that?
That is a very existential question that I don't have an answer to.
It's like, why are we willing to? The world should be up in arms at the very suggestion of a 99% mortgage, but instead there's quiet murmurs and a few whoops of delight. And I'm thinking to myself, do you guys, was it too short a time ago? Do you not remember what happened last time?
People see the upside, and they want to accept it on face value that they're being assisted. So I totally get that. And I said earlier, I think it's a great thing that people are offered the opportunity to go and buy a house. But if they're going to make a repeat of what happened last time around, then that's a problem. So I've already mentioned that having a huge increase in the number of people coming into the market looking to buy property is a challenge with the existing supply not remedied. That it is without a doubt that the banks need highly regulating, and they are a law unto themselves and seem to operate the system the way they see.
And yet we're a government who champions deregulation. That's their big thing. They love the every man for themselves syndrome, because it means I can then pack in my stash. Sorry, I'm sorry,
regulation where regulation's needed.
I'm not normally like this. Chris, I'm normally very even-headed, and I'm all about looking for the upside. But at the moment, can you find me some silver linings, please?
I think that it won't come to pass. I think that people are not stupid. They do see through the sham that's being dangled in front of them.
Please, can they see through the sham?
They do recognise that there are challenges that could be alleviated, but they're constantly bombarded with messaging that tries to pull the wool over their eyes, and some people do fall for that. I'm afraid. It's just human nature to fall for things from time to time, but then to wake up and realise actually, no, that's not the way forward. So I'm sure people do get it, even though there'll be some people that get sucked into it.
It reminds me of the. Do you remember equity release is a tool that's used by a number of people and is nowadays very heavily regulated. But do you remember there was a time not that long ago when there was no regulation, it was full of cowboys, and people were losing their homes and signing up to God knows what, in the hope of getting some quick cash. It reminds me a bit like that.
Yeah, well, if you go back to the days of Northern Rock, that's effectively what was happening then. So the lenders were allowing people to equity strip the properties, so it had gone up in a space of 6 months after they'd already got a 99% mortgage on it, and then they went and took the difference again over how much it had gone up. So when the crash came in 2008, everyone's gearing was up and above where it should have been. There was nothing to give back apart from the keys to the bank. So that's the position that a lot of people were in. Negative equity, we've spoke previously about options and how that can help and how I can help people in those types of situations, but I'm not encouraging it to happen. And
I can't see the future, but to my mind's eye, go on.
I was going to say, if you can you give me 6 numbers for this Saturday, please?
No, no, I want those. The truth of the matter is this: if people take up wholesale this 99% mortgage, if it comes to pass, then what? In 6-12 months' time, when the world changes yet again, we're going to have a lot of negative equity out there.
Potentially. So I'll put my hand up now if people need the help. Come visit me. But
yes, and it's true. I mean, without trying to plug what you do too heavily, because that's not what this show's about. Chris does have a mechanism by which you stay in your house and you don't leave. You could even do well out of it long term, but that you then lose to having the millstone around your neck of negative equity. And I have a feeling that you may end up helping people quite a lot over this.
Potentially, yeah.
But it's unfair. It's not shouldn't happen in the first place.
No, I fully agree, and I personally I would be looking at the banks and the politicians and seeing if there's some sort of collusion going on in the background to try and orchestrate things that there's a pattern repeat that's going on scarily.
I'm not normally one for banging the drum and give us what should people do? What are you entreating them to look more carefully? Don't jump in too quickly. Don't necessarily grab what looks like a freshly plucked apple from a tree. Check whether or not there are strings attached.
Don't get sucked into the gimmick. Yeah, but if you're serious about getting on to the property ladder, great. Don't overstretch yourself. Don't overburden yourself. Paul, who we were speaking to earlier, knows his stuff. Clearly outlined that you need to be looking at your repayments for the cost of for the life of the mortgage, not just those first 2 to 5 years through the fixed term, because you will you will have to refinance at some point if you're on a fixed mortgage.
Yeah,
fixed
because
rate.
when you come out the other side, a very good friend of mine and a client yesterday told me that they come to the end of their fixed term, and suddenly they're going to have to find an extra grand a month in repayments.
It's just not okay.
That's absurd, isn't
it? It drives me absolutely bonkers. Yes, that they have this level of power that they can change and move the goalposts over us, but that is the system that we operate in. We've already borrowed the money, so I'm not sure why they would want to then change the rates on us, other than to transfer.
Zoe Hart, I've known Zoe for many years. It's just not possible to overstretch yourself to get on the property ladder. If you do, I mean, watch out, Zoe. Things are a changing.
Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, I totally understand. It's tough out there. It's tough, and until supply is correctly addressed and it's opened up, we almost need a price correction by increasing the amount of supply. The only people that really are impacted by a price correction down, sellers who in their head have already spent the money, people who have already put themselves in negative equity, and banks. Negative equity is only ever an issue though if you're going to sell. If you're happy where you are, it's not a problem. If
you're happy with you are, it's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. The only other issue, of course, is if you're trying to borrow based on the value of your property, then of course, if you're in negative equity, that can affect that. Guys, we don't give advice. We are purely commentating, and these are our reactions alone. This is our opinions, nothing more. Please do your homework, do your research. Oh gosh, she's piling in now. There we go. Second job in the evening just to cover mortgage repayment, and she earns 65. This is not right.
That's wild.
That's nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts. This is not where we should be. But if I said to you, we need a correction, it won't happen, will it? It can't happen.
I was talking earlier about the one-party system that we seem to have, alluding to the fact that it doesn't really matter who you vote for in the Commons at the moment. They're saying the same things with just different twists on at the moment. So, yeah, we need some better thinking and thinking that's beyond what's currently available.
Chris, Zoe needs your help. She says, "What can we do?"
It's a huge question. We need to be putting pressure on the people that are meant to be representing us to increase the amount of supply. So the planning system is probably the biggest bottleneck at the moment. But yeah, speak to your MP, write to your MP, say this is not acceptable, and we need to collectively be putting pressure on the whole system. There's a general election.
It should not be, to use that example, we shouldn't have £65,000 a year used to be referred to as a damn good salary.
Incredible salary, yeah.
Right. And here's someone with 65k a year having to get a second job to pay the mortgage. That makes no sense to me. No sense. All right, look, thanks for joining. Zoe, thanks for your comments. If you found this useful, please tune in again. We're here every Thursday, Chris and I often not with me banging my drum quite so loudly, but it was driving me nuts. And Chris actually had a completely different thing we were going to talk about. He said, no, let's talk about that. So look, we are here every Thursday. Shameless plug. At 10 o'clock on the same day, we run the Property Quorum, which Chris is at as well, which is me, Chris, Hamish McClay, who's just searching and convincing, and of course, Juliet Babulal, who is a property lawyer. But we always have special guests. Today we had a mortgage specialist. Please go and look. If you look in my timeline on LinkedIn or on Chris's, you should see that earlier in the day. Do have a look. And I would say we're trying to build up our audience. So if you can bring other people along, it always helps when people like Zoe drop in topics and ideas. And thank you, Zoe. She said, well done, great topic. See you next time. Yeah, it shouldn't be a great topic. It shouldn't be the topic we're talking about. But you know what? We've got craziness happening in the Commons, and we've got a budget coming up where they're dropping on us potential horrendousness. Oh, look at that. Dropped you some hearts. There we go. Lovely. Lovely. So until next week, I wish all of you, please hold it together. Hold it together. Please don't drive head first at what seems to be an amazing deal. Think 4 or 5 years down the line when you come out, you're fixed. About how you're going to suddenly have to find another grand or two suddenly to cover things. We don't want you to get to the point where you've had 5 glorious years living in your property only to have to hand the keys back. That would be a terrible state. So I wish all of you safety, thoughtfulness, dare I say, and of course, good mental health. Bye-bye now.